Now, it's very well documented that the 2020 NASCAR season was certainly a unique one and a very interesting one. I already made a video on the NASCAR COVID shutdown that covered kind of the time during then, and we also mentioned a very strange schedule that could have actually happened that unfortunately didn't ever happen in NASCAR. I didn't really go into too much detail, I kind of just showed it, but that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. We're going to be going through the entire schedule, and it is pretty insane. I'm just going to say it right now. So NASCAR never officially released this schedule to the public. It was just a report by NBC Sports, so it's pretty much legit, and this was a real thing. So, of course, NASCAR came back in real life at the beginning of May. They only had, about like a month and a half, 2 months off from their actual COVID shutdown in about mid-March. They had already gotten through 4 of the races that season, so they had a chance to run all 32, and they, of course, took that chance. They were able to do that. But that's not to say that it wasn't pretty strange to start off. As you can see, here's the official NASCAR is Back schedule for 2020, their first 2 weekends, I guess you could say, of the season. Obviously, really strange. It started off normally with a Cup race, but at Darlington, so they added that to the year. Then there was a Tuesday race for the Xfinity Series at Darlington as well. That definitely wasn't at 8 p.m. That must be wrong. I'm not really sure. Again, this is the real schedule. This isn't what this video is about. I'm just going to go through this real quick. Then, of course, you got the Wednesday race at Darlington, which was pretty crazy for the Cup Series as well. So they were running, of course, midweek races. They also had doubleheaders later in the season. So it still was strange, but not as strange as you're going to see. And you see, of course, at Charlotte, the Coke 600. Monday's Xfinity race. I don't know why they just didn't run out on Saturday. Tuesday for the Truck Series, then another Charlotte race on Wednesday. I think a lot of people remember these races. They're not really too forgotten at this point. Here's another look at the updated 2020 schedule that happened later that season in August. You see, had the Cup Series doubleheader at Michigan with an ARCA race in between on the same Sunday for the Cup Series. Xfinity, you can see they went to Road America that week as well, right before the Saturday Cup race. So I believe that might have been the first doubleheader, or maybe it was Pocono, I'm not exactly sure. But they already had a Pocono doubleheader that was scheduled before COVID even hit, and I think Michigan may have been a doubleheader as well. So Cup Series doubleheaders for that season before COVID even hit, again, were still a thing, but this kind of took it to the extreme. Move on to the Daytona Road Course. That was another brand new track, kind of replaced both Sonoma and Watkins Glen because they weren't able to race there. You also couldn't race at Chicagoland that season as well. Of course, ARCA raced there on Friday, Xfinity on Saturday. There was a Truck Series race right before the Sunday Cup race as well. This is a little bit more of a normal schedule, even though it's at the Daytona Road Course, where they had literally no practice going into a brand new racetrack. It is kind of odd that the trucks were in on Sunday right before Cup. Dover's the most packed on here. You have 6 races that weekend between 4 different series. The Cup Series and the Xfinity Series both had double headers. 1 Cup race on Saturday, 1 Xfinity race on Saturday, and then the same for Sunday. With Xfinity first, Cup going second. Trucks ran on Friday at 5. ARCA ran on Friday as well at 2. So 6 different races at Dover within 3 days. That was a very packed weekend. There definitely wasn't a Dover doubleheader scheduled that season, but of course, due to COVID, they had to move them into a doubleheader for that year. Nothing at all changed for the Daytona regular season finale week. That was the same as scheduled. Then they went to Gateway with the Truck Series as usual that weekend, and apparently ARCA went to Gateway as well. After all of that, the playoffs for Cup, Trucks, and Xfinity all ran as planned before COVID even hit, so nothing was affected there by COVID, other than there was no practice or qualifying, which was the same thing for the entire season outside of the Coke 600. But it definitely could have been a lot worse. They were able to restart in May. They had a good month of racing, and of course they ended the season on time, and everyone went home happy after that. But now, finally getting to the main topic of this video, I'm about to tell you about the worst case scenario, what NASCAR would have done if they couldn't restart in May, couldn't even restart in June, July, August, even September, and they had to wait all the way until October. And this is with them wanting to run the remaining 32 races without any races being deducted to make a full 36. And real quick disclaimer, this doesn't include Trucks, Xfinity, or ARCA. I have absolutely no idea where NASCAR was going to plan to race them if this schedule became a reality. Because as you're about to see, there was basically no room for that to even happen. So with this schedule draft, the worst case scenario, I guess you can call it, NASCAR decided they would return October 25th after not being racing since March, over 7 months ago since the last NASCAR race even took place. They would restart with the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I mean, this may seem normal enough. I mean, October, Indianapolis does seem weird, but obviously restarting the season that late race number 5 of the year happening in late October. It's a Sunday, so seems pretty normal to start off. This is kind of the only normal thing you're going to see in this worst-case scenario 2020 NASCAR Cup Series schedule. The next week after that, on Halloween, we go to Pocono for the doubleheader. So you got Halloween, Pocono, and then on November 1st, we also go to Pocono. That seems pretty chilly, if I would say so myself. So again, not too weird, but that's about to change now, where you see 3, yes, you heard that right, 3 NASCAR Cup Series races at Darlington in back-to-back days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all the next weekend. I don't know if this includes the Southern 500 or what. I don't know what this includes. This is really kind of vague details they gave us because this technically never became a real thing. But my goodness, 3 Cup Series races at Darlington in a row. That is brutal. So that's already 6 races complete in just about a 15 or so day span for the Cup Series. And somehow it gets even more crazy because then they decided that 4 Bristol races in back-to-back days would be a good idea. Literally a Bristol race Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the NASCAR Cup Series. Now, I don't know how long each race would be. I swear to God, if they were planning to make this 500 laps a race, oh my good lord. 2,000 laps at Bristol in a single Cup Series week is just, I don't even know what to say. That's 2 full seasons of Bristol right there. And after that 4th race at Bristol, they would already be 14 races into the year, 10 races in since they came back in about, what, like 20 days? Just unbelievable. I don't know how the hell they thought this was going to work. This would have just been the most brutal thing ever. This is like a baseball team schedule right here. Then after turning the drivers' arms into jelly with 4 straight days of Bristol racing, the next weekend they sent them to Dover on Saturday and Sunday for a more normal weekend of action, just 2 races at Dover Motor Speedway for the Cup guys. I mean, that's a light jog at this point after running the most insane marathon they've ever seen the prior weekend. Again, have no idea where Xfinity Trucks, Arco, no idea where they are. After that, they would go to Richmond, and now we're back to some crazy stuff here. 3 straight races at Richmond for the Cup guys on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. More short track action. My goodness, their arms must have had to hurt. And pretty late November, the day after Thanksgiving. The season for a NASCAR in real life was way over by then, and it must have been pretty cold there at Richmond Raceway as well, late in the year like that, and they were only about, what, like halfway through the schedule. 3 straight races at Richmond. Not as crazy as 4 in a row at Bristol, but still is pretty insane. Then we move on to December. There are now back-to-back weekends of 3 races in a row for the Cup guys on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. First weekend of December happened in Martinsville, where they of course raced Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Man, that must have been getting pretty cold. I mean, it's pretty cold early November at Martinsville for their races anyway. Then we maybe warm up a little bit. We go to Atlanta the next week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Teams at this point are just worn out. They are just so ready to have the season over. I don't know if they were going to have playoffs because after Atlanta, they would now be 25 races into the season, which was, I mean, the next race would have been the regular season finale in real life. And as you're going to see coming up, the regular season finale and the playoff opener would have been in back-to-back days. So, and at the same exact racetrack. So I have no idea how that would have worked. In our situation, we're just going to say they changed the full season points and they didn't do playoffs at all. Maybe this would have been a good thing to actually have happen because that probably would have killed the playoffs altogether. But my goodness, that next week, oh my lord, it's 4 races at Charlotte on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, by the way, right before Christmas. 2 of them being at the Charlotte Roval, and the other 2 being at the Charlotte Oval. That might include the Coke 600 in December. Just, I don't even know how to fathom that. But you got to prepare for the road course for 2 days, then you got to go to a completely different style of racing at the Oval. I mean, this might be just more insane than Bristol. The only reason I'm not going to say it officially is because, I mean, Charlotte is literally right next to all where the teams are. Bristol, of course, is further away in Tennessee. But anyways, you like holiday NFL? How about holiday NASCAR at 2 different racetracks, both in Florida? You got Homestead, Miami, first of all, on Christmas Eve, and then you got a Homestead race on Christmas, and then for some reason, some way, they don't give them the day off. The day after Christmas, they gotta go to Daytona to run a Daytona race, and the day after that, they gotta run another Daytona race. God, that would be expensive. I mean, this is another 4 straight days. Actually, this might take the cake as the most brutal because it's split between 2 different racetracks. What were they thinking? And with this being Christmas Eve and Christmas, yeah, this is definitely the most brutal part of the schedule, but luckily for these teams, it was almost over. And after having their holidays ruined by 4 straight days of NASCAR, they had a New Year's present. In 2021, they were finishing up the 2020 NASCAR season. This really is looking like the NFL at this point. 3 straight races at Phoenix to finish up the year. And of course, racing on New Year's Day, yet another holiday that teams weren't able to spend with their families. But after those 3 Phoenix races, the champion would have been decided for the Cup Series. No idea again what happened with Xfinity Trucks or ARCA. And the 2020 NASCAR season would have finally been over. All 36 races would have been ran. Didn't even have the All-Star race with this. That got completely canceled. And it was just an absolute brutal stretch, but they were finally done. And now in early 2021, they immediately in the next month had to get ready for the 2021 season. But what a year that would have been. I mean, within just over 2 months, they ran 32 NASCAR Cup Series races, which is just unbelievable and unheard of. Triple headers, quadruple headers, double headers, not a single weekend where you just had one race, going to multiple different racetracks at some points in the same exact weekend, racing on Christmas, racing the day after Thanksgiving, racing on Christmas Eve, racing on New Year's Day, and finishing up the 2020 NASCAR season in early 2021. I mean, I don't even know how they would have done this. Logistically, this would have been an absolute nightmare. Drivers would have probably hated it. I don't think this would ever have actually been approved, and I really do think if they had to wait until October, they would have cut down the season probably in half, because there is no way in hell you can convince me this would work, and again, that you could convince me that they somehow would run Trucks, Xfinity, and ARCA. At this point, with this schedule, if it actually happened this way, they would at this point have to cancel those races, because there is literally no way they could actually happen. But thank God this never happened and we got it the way that we actually got it. And NASCAR is back within about a month and a half, 2 months, and we finished up the season normally. But again, that will just about do it. Give me your thoughts on this just unbelievable schedule that could have actually happened. Again, luckily it never happened. I don't think it ever would have been approved, but it was a possibility at one point if NASCAR was not able to get back when they actually did. So that'll just about do it in this one, and I will see you guys in the next video.